So the playlist is done. The Pinterest board is completely unhinged. And we've Googled how heavy is a longsword at least twice. Now we actually maybe have to start planning a novel. Yeah, let's do it. Last week, I walked you through all the deliciously ridiculous writer's rituals that we do before writing a single word. And yeah, they may be 87% procrastination, but they're sacred and we love them most of the time. Eventually, we hit this point where, vibes are great, but where's the plot? So today I'm going to walk you through my actual planning process for planning a novel. The real steps I take after all the Pinterest spirals and playlists. We're getting serious, or at least semi-serious. As serious as it gets here. Basically, these are the steps that help me get from floating idea blob to an actual outline, something that I can write from. We won't do all these steps today. Some are gonna have videos of their own. Others we're never gonna mention again. But here is basically my way of planning a novel. Step 1 is the brain dump bonanza. Before the plan, there's the mess. Every book starts with chaos, so let it just be chaos for a little while. This is where we let the ideas just explode everywhere. No structure, no filters, just you and whatever's been brewing in your head for the past few weeks or months or years. No judgment. This is where we throw everything in. I'm talking plot sparks, random scenes, character tidbits, even little notes like insert a dragon fight here. Just don't filter, let everything out. I usually include things like what I know so far. It can be something like an idea spark, or the premise, or the vibe, or the theme, or the character. It could be anything. There are usually a lot of question marks everywhere and phrases like, does this even make sense? And yeah, I'll figure that out later. Everywhere. Now that we've made a mess, it's time to dig for bones. This is where we try to find the spine of the book, to distill the idea into something that vaguely resembles a story. Just the basics. Things like, what does the main character actually want and what's stopping them? Map out, in a very, very loose way, the beginning, the midpoint, the inciting incident, the climax, the resolution. Nothing fancy, just enough to say, hey, I think there's a story here, maybe. This is also the point where I ask myself, what's the story about? Like, what is it emotionally? What is it supposed to say? What is it supposed to leave a reader feeling? And this is also where I decide if there is a story here, a book that I want to spend the next however many months with, or years, depending. Or if this is just a really good playlist, a nice idea, something that I need to leave on the back burner and let it stew. Then comes step 3, character time, but for real. Not just vibes and, Pinterest faces, they're fun, but we need characters who bleed, especially in fantasy. I have a template that I made and have worked with for some of my previous novels, and I just adapt it, I tailor it, I change it every time. If this is something that you might find useful or helpful, let me know in the comments and I'll draft a PDF version for that and share it with you. Anyway, think of this as a get to know you questionnaire. At this step, we can also free write from the character's point of view, asking things like, what do they want? What do they fear? What keeps them up at night? And what were they doing before page 1? this is where we write out their goals, their fears, their flaws, maybe a secret that they don't want anyone to know. You could even write journal entries from their perspective, which is especially helpful if they are a POV character for the novel, because then you can get closer into their head and see how they see the world. These are scenes that are never meant to make the book, but they help you understand the character's voice and just feel closer to them. It makes them more real. Like I said, we want characters who bleed. This is the step where I really get into the different ways each character is morally gray. Get to see what motivates them beyond what I need them to do for the plot, and where they start having a lot more depth. Step 4 is world building, and I am so prone to world builder's disease. I mean, I just get lost in the ideas and end up doing research for ages, building everything for a story, even if it's completely unnecessary. I mean, I even ended up, for one of the previous books, oh, hold on, let me get it. Maybe I should have gotten this before filming, but whatever. For one of my previous books, I actually made this notebook as a compilation of my research. It's falling apart for real. But it has the libraries. I only have one library in the book, with sketches and drawings and a full free write description of one of the libraries. These are printed out Pinterest photos. We've got the map of the world, a rough draft, which I then digitized and scanned and did everything with. You've got different races fully fleshed out with a description of each race's lore. You've got, let's see what else I've got in here. Yeah, more races. You've got the cycles of the moon in this world and the different moon phases, because this is a world where they don't use the normal calendar. They have 15 months rather than 12, which obviously I then had to go into in much more detail and see what the seasons are like. They have 6 seasons, not 4, and how time works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons. It's been a really long time since I was in this book. We've got different areas in the realm. Naming, I spent ages trying to figure out names. Climate, the religions. So we've got the old ways, we've got the 3, we've got the 9. Like each place had its own faith and religion. Then we've got each city going into depth of what it looks like. I mean, we've got the written word. I even made up a freaking language and script for the different areas with a full alphabet. Yeah, this goes on and on and on and on. So when world building, I need boundaries, and maybe you do too, because honestly, I barely looked at any of this when drafting that novel. So I think we should give ourselves permission to world build, but in a sandbox, not in a black hole. World building is basically the step where we figure out what kind of world our characters live in. It's setting details, it's social structure, things like political systems, if that's applicable to your story. It's cultural norms, again, if needed. Any magic or any tech systems. Just remember, these are the things that the reader will need to know early in the story. You don't need to plan everything that will come up on book 15 of your series. Just get to know the essentials first. Get to know the things that make this world feel lived in, not just look cool, because you really don't want to end up with a 400-page codex of a world but no story. Although I do believe that if something feels important enough for you to want to explain with a map or with a family tree, then it probably is, but maybe you should spend more time making that or polishing it and finishing it off after you get the plot down on paper, because these things just change so much once you start writing. Also, this whole world building step is something I'm going to go into in much more depth in a video in a few weeks, where we're going to work through Wonderbook, as I mentioned in the Sanderson video, together. I'm really excited for that. I haven't read that book yet, and I feel like the world building inspiration and guidance that it's going to provide is going to be the perfect sandbox for us to play in. So if you're interested in that at all, subscribe, stick around, and you'll get a lot more tips on world building pretty soon. I think that's in 3 weeks or so. Anyway, let's move on. Step 5 is the beat sheet or scene list. This is where we build a bridge between ideas and dreams and an actual draft. This is also the step where these bones and vibes start to look like a book. I sometimes use Save the Cat or the 3-act structure, and I start filling in what happens and what changes according to these formulas. Another method I'm toying with is the one that Brandon Sanderson mentioned in his recent BYU lectures. I'll leave that one linked for you here. It's where you take the classical story structure like the father revenge plot that he explores with Hamlet, with The Lion King, with Star Wars as examples, and you decode all the different pieces that make up the story in its different forms and in its many iterations. And then you find the common threads, the common pieces between them, and decide which you want to use for your story. Then you basically have the bones laid out, and you decide what skin to use on them, how to cover them up, how to change their flavor, and how to mix it up to make it your own. This is an approach I'm really tempted to try. I haven't tried it yet, but I might do it for the next book. I just don't feel like I want to rush it. I want to experience a lot more stories. Like last night we watched How to Train Your Dragon in the live action, and I freaking loved it. I really did. It was such a beautiful movie. In some ways better than the original animation, in other ways worse, but you can never have it all. Anyway, I'm thinking maybe of exploring what that plot structure is and what the pieces are, seeing what other stories are similar. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe Matrix or something. So this is something I'm gonna be mulling over, but I don't wanna rush it, and I don't think you should rush it too if you try this approach. If you're working off of a familiar structure like Save the Cat or the 3-act structure or Hero's Journey, then you could just go into it and fill in your own story beats. This section involves a lot of bullet points, but no pressure. It's just a lot of forward movement, and I'm covering scene by scene, jotting down how the characters change, how things evolve, and what's happening. I like it. It's fun, and I mean, I'm definitely a planner. I'm not a pantser. So I go beat by beat, scene by scene, jotting down what happens and what changes, how the characters evolve, how the plot is fulfilling the promises it sets out to make, and things like that. But this isn't anything fancy. And it definitely includes a lot of insert chaos here brackets, or just highlights with XXX just to fill it out later. But without this sort of outline, I feel lost as a plotter. And if you're a plotter too, you probably can relate to that. But I mean, if you're a pantser, to be fair, you wouldn't even be here. You wouldn't be watching this video if you're a pantser. Or maybe you are and you're curious about trying this. I need this structure. I need this structure to feel like I know where the story is going and that I'm not missing some great big part of it that I haven't thought of. I also love doing this step on index cards or on post-it notes that I can then stick to the back of my door or up on my wall. This way I get to really see the plot and experience it in a physical way. I get to move the post-it notes around and then work out where each scene should go. I like doing this physically. I don't know. I just like the feel of doing this in the real world. And then I transfer it into its digital form, where I feel like that's a lot more commitment in some ways. It feels a lot more polished and refined by that stage. And then this step is also where I usually discover that the middle of my novel is an absolute unexplored swampland. And I have a lot of, notes and arrows saying, find the Act 2 purpose, or what's even going on here? But at least at this step, you start filling it out and figuring it out. You should really take your time with this so that you can feel happy with the plan that we planners have. Before entering the next step, which is step 6, the logistics zone. Now, this isn't sexy, it's not aesthetic. It also feels a little bit like procrastination, but for me, it's actually necessary. This is where I stop dreaming and I actually bring my tools to the table. It includes things like creating the Scrivener file and then the folders inside, setting up a backup system because you definitely do not want to be burnt by losing your files. It's transferring the physical plan, let's call it a plan, but the physical post-it note card, index card chaos into its digital form. And if you don't use Scrivener, that's not a big deal. You could do this in Word, you could do this in Google Docs or whatever platform you're using. It's just great to transfer everything over into one space where you can keep track of your ideas. This is also the step where we set a realistic in all caps, highlighted, underlined 3 times writing goal. Whether that's 1,000 words a day, or whether that's 3 scenes a week, or whether that's writing for an hour every morning on the weekends, whatever works for you, but make it realistic and make it suitable to your life. Another thing you could do now, or what I'm going to be doing, is to map out the actual time that I'll be writing, not pretending to write. I'm talking about butt in chair, hands on keyboard kind of writing time. After doing the experiment with writing following Sanderson's writing routine, I really found value in having chunks of time that are purely dedicated to writing, and they're fenced off from everything else. If you haven't seen that behemoth of a video yet, I'm gonna leave it linked up here if you're curious and you want to check it out. But be warned, it's big, and there are a lot of emotions going through it. And then finally, with all of this done, it's time to prep a couple of sanity saving systems. I mean, these are just the different ways that can help make the drafting process feel a little bit easier, because we want it to feel more like let the words flow than sit at a typewriter and bleed. At least I do. For me, this might include snacks or setting up a recurring grocery order, doing some meal prep planning, just so that I know that food's taken care of for the next couple of weeks. You could even do some mood lighting, although that feels more like last week's video than this week. I really want to try the whole creative costume idea. That's meant to be one of the ways you can spark creativity. And maybe I'll just choose a specific writing hoodie for this book. Although right now in Cyprus, it is really freaking hot, and the idea of writing with a hoodie does not seem like a good idea. But anyway, you can figure out if you want to do your own creative costume. This is also the stage where I plan my rewards, my writing rewards, you know, carrot and stick. I prefer the carrot. So this includes things like choosing what stickers are going to be going up on my calendar for the word counts and for every day that I actually wrote. It includes things like rewards for milestones, you know, adding different books to my wish list and saying, okay, I'll get this book when I hit X thousand words, or when I finish Act 1 or Act 2. It also includes things like talking to a friend and asking them to be my accountability buddy. So you can reach out to either people around you, people who support your journey, or people online and being part of writing communities, to have the sense of accountability, to keep you moving forward and progressing. This is basically the step where we do everything we can to get our environment as ready as possible so that our future selves can just stand a chance with writing a story. Because writing a book isn't easy. It's hard work. It takes a lot out of you. And, you know, writing a book when you're hungry, or you're too hot or too cold or too tired, all alone in your little brain swamp, is just impossible. So let's try do a few things to stop that from happening. So yeah, last week was vibes. And the rituals, they're cute. I love them as much as the next writer, but I'm a planner. So this week, we get structure. We get the steps it takes to go from idea to story to book. Whew, to start making this all real. So let me know in the comments what part of this whole process is something that you're already doing, or something that you always skip and then regret skipping. And if you stuck around this far, leave a little pen emoji in the comments, just so I know who you are. I really appreciate you. And if you enjoy all this creative chaos and all these little bits that help make life a bit simpler and more creative, then stick around and subscribe. But remember, mood boards, they're great, but you know, maybe open a document sometime this week. Yeah? Deal? I'll leave another video linked for you somewhere on here, so you can check it out after this. And thank you. Thanks for watching.